and a very warm welcome to the Autumn Homebuilding and Renovating Virtual Show. The seminar session you're just joining us for is all about design and how to make your home wow, and it's been led by architect Allan Corefield. Now, this session is sponsored by RIBA, who are our headline sponsor, so please do make sure you go and have a look at their stand. And if you've got any questions that you'd like to put to an architect like Allan, then head to our Ask the Experts chat room. Right, over to you, Allan.
Thanks, Laura. Hi there, everybody. My name is Allan Corefield, as Laura's just said. I'm an expert for Homebuilding and Renovating magazine. I'm also a chartered RIBA architect, and I've got a team of 14 spread across 2 locations in Scotland and in Swindon. And we have worked on about 380 one-off self-build, low-energy homes and renovation projects. And hopefully I can impart or inspire you with some of the ideas and projects that we've worked on. So in the next sort of 45 minutes, we're going to look at how you can create wow and how you can make your home or your project amazing. We're all going to go through this challenging, exciting process, and you may as well get something at the end of it. It may as well be worthwhile. So we're going to look at the design process first of all, because that's where a lot of mistakes and problems can happen. So how would you do this? Who do you need to get involved? Then we'll go into some big wow ideas. So these are things that will impact your budget significantly. You need to include for it at the start, but hopefully you can get some ideas from it, some inspiration. We'll then look at some little ideas, some little small things that anybody can put into their project. And after I did this talk in this first virtual show in the summer, I've added in some little things that you can do on a budget if you're doing a very small renovation. If you're been stuck in your house for ages now and want to do something to make it feel a bit more uplifting. And then we'll sort of finish up with some putting it all together and summarize it, just so that you can get some ideas and you can get some good takeaways from this talk. I'll also share a link at the very end of this talk so that you can download the slides and all the other talks that I used to do for Homebuilding Renovating, the live shows, which hopefully we'll get back to at the start of next year. So let's get into this. So the design process. So first of all, you really need to start whatever the project that you're doing with a design brief. So something that sets out all of the ideas, everything that's really important to you and your project. And it's really important that you write this down. You do it before you start talking to any architects or any designers. It should be used to get accurate quotes. It's something that you should be doing with your family. So actually sit everybody that's involved in your project around the table, go through all the key things that you want to include, and then that's a document that evolves throughout your project, and that you can add to and change to as the requirements and potential budget constraints might force you to change your ideas. So what's included in the brief? So when you're creating something new, it's always worthwhile thinking about the room sizes. Actually, what is it you want to do if you're creating a new house or a new extension? Think about the sizes of your current house if you're happy with them. So put that into a spreadsheet and say, this is my living room size at the moment. I'm happy with it or not happy with it. Think about how your building's going to flow. What relationship do you want between living room and kitchen and dining? Do you want a separate snug? Is it important that you've got a utility room that you can bring the dogs in and clean everything up? There's usually an architectural style that you're interested in because it's your home. Remember, you're designing this for you, not for your architect. So is it contemporary, is it modern, or is it just in between? So if you're looking at a new build or even looking at a new property, there's usually something with the site that's really grabbed you, that's really made it important for you to buy this. So it might be a view, it might be the orientation for a view or for the sun, or there might be a nice stream or something that you want to be able to look out onto. Is whatever you're doing is important that you've got energy performance, really key energy performance. We all should be doing better in terms of energy performance. So the vast majority of self-builders are far exceeding what the national house builders are doing. So think about that and think about the energy, the heating strategy. And what's your role going to be in this project? Are you going to be a self-builder who's hands-on and doing a little bit of work, or managing, as most people do, manage the process? Or are you looking to get a set of drawings done, give them and some money over to a main contractor and get your keys at the end. So it's really important at the start of the process to know that and to work out where you're going to fit into this part of your project. What's your budget? It's a key thing. A lot of people, one, at the start of it, don't really work out what their budget is. So one part of this is budget, but also the second part is cash flow. It's all fair and well saying that you've got access to £150,000, but if you've only got that once you sell your house, then that's going to have an impact on your cash flow if you're building a new home. And timescales are really important. When are you going to finish this project? When do you need to get in? Please, if you're doing a big project, don't set Christmas as the time limit, because you just end up ruining Christmas. I've seen it over and over and over. And it's also really important on your brief to include a little statement about why you're doing it. The what and the how are all really easy. So we've done those. Everybody's done them on every project. We know what it is we're building from the drawings, and we know how we're going to do it. But why you're choosing to do this is completely specific to your family. Other things that, as well as a brief, that you should be looking to do at the start of the project. And we always expect to get information from our potential clients or from our clients. So have a bit of fun. Sketch out. So all these images that I'll show you are things that I've been given at the start of a project by a client. So this is a sketch for a house. The client had already knew the relationship of where they wanted to have their bedrooms and the rooms. So this was just put out on a piece of graph paper, and it's to scale, and it gives us a lot of information for what we can use as one idea. You can take it a step further and use things like Google SketchUp. You can download that for free, and you can draw something that may or may not be buildable, but it will give a sense of what it is you're trying to accomplish to your architect or your designer. My favourite thing is Lego. I love playing with Lego. You, as a self-builder or somebody who's going to build or design your new home, can play with Lego. You're allowed to. You have my permission. And Lego actually do a Lego architecture set that's all to scale. So this model is something I was handed by a client at a fresh new client meeting, and he said he just wanted that, but a little bit bigger. So yeah, you can have a bit of fun with what you're doing. Pinterest is massively, massively useful in any project, whatever it is in life. If you don't know what Pinterest is, where have you been? And once you've found it, you're going to lose hours and hours of your life. Please, husband and wife, partners, do this together, this exercise together. It's really different to design two different houses. But the benefit of Pinterest is it's an online scrapbook. Homebuilding Renovating magazine have a huge presence, so do Real Homes. All of the images are on there. You can go and search for certain things, contemporary staircase, whatever it may be, create a board, and you can then share that with your designers. So we get all of our clients share what it is they're going to do. Architects are really good at designing homes, but we need to know what it is you want. We need a glimpse inside your head, and Pinterest is, at the moment, is by far the best way to do that. So that's a bit about the project brief and what you can do to start the process and get everything in line. The next thing you need is you're going to need help. You're going to need to get the right people involved in your project. And if you're doing an extension, conversion, new build, you're going to need an architect, or you're going to need an architectural designer. To me, it's more about getting the right person, the best qualified person in a certain title. You're going to need an engineer if you're doing anything structural. And if you're doing a new build home that's got anything contentious in terms of planning, you would be best to get a planning consultant involved. If you want to have cost certainty, a quantity surveyor can check all the drawings and provide a baseline cost. If you're putting a new heating system in, heating engineer. Depending on how your role is in the project, you may want to get a project manager if you're not comfortable to manage the whole build, and they could take a couple of % of the construction cost to manage the subcontractors on your behalf. You may want to get landscape and lighting designers involved. If you're using an architect or a designer, they'll have specific areas of expertise in landscape design and interior. And lighting are areas that it's sometimes worth getting a specialist involved. If you're doing anything that involves any really actual construction, you really need to look at the CDM regulations. So a bit of bedtime reading, CDM 2015 client responsibilities. And that'll give you a list of things that you need to do as the client to keep your project safe and to keep everybody safe on it. So you have a responsibility and a liability as a client. And if you're taking over the work and being the project manager and running it, you may be classed as the principal contractor as well. So these are key things that just really need to be addressed and looked at, even if you're doing the smallest extension. So moving on to tips for appointing people, because as I say, there's good and there's bad in every field. So try and speak to at least 3 people. You'll probably get recommended. You'll do some Google searches. You'll see projects that you like, that you want to use those architects. Get in touch. Ask for references. It's also really good to ask for current projects that are on site. And ask to phone the clients and also phone the builders just to see how things have gone, what mistakes, what problems they've had and how they've dealt with them, because nobody's perfect and you'll get this painted picture that everything went as rosy and perfect. But you need to know that if something does go wrong, and it may go wrong, that they're going to be able to fix it as a design team. Give them your detailed brief and your Pinterest boards, and you want to get back written quotes, fixed fees. As a self-builder or somebody who's on a tight budget, it's imperative that you know every cost and they're all fixed. Nothing should be on a percentage basis. Now, this is my Allan Corefield's personal opinion, and that's the way we work as a practice. I think an architect should be able to work out on a small job like a one-off house or an extension what the fee is going to exactly be, and you need to know that. It's the same for engineers, the same for builders. You should really be trying to get everything on a fixed cost. And speak to the people that work on these types of jobs. Don't go to a big commercial practice if they don't do one-off houses or little extensions. So it's vitally important that you speak to the best people that you can afford. And I would suggest that is more important than somebody that's local. It's the best people that you can for your type of job. And do not pick anybody purely on price or availability or anything like that. It has to be accumulation of lots of different factors, and part of that has to be relationship and communication. You're going to be working with an architect for between 9 and 18 months. They're going to be in your life, part of your family for a while, and they're designing, helping you design probably one of the biggest financial commitments and one of the biggest things that will have an impact on you and your family. So you need to work with them, and you need to be able to communicate, and if that doesn't work, and at any point during the project, as long as you've given them the opportunity and you've dealt with things in line with a contract, if it's not working for them, it's probably not working for you. So don't try and force something, a relationship. There's always a get out, but it has to be done fairly. But hopefully you'll never get to that point because you'll have done all your due diligence in the first place. And all of these little things will help you get to the point where you can be designing something and doing it right to start with, first of all. So the stages, if we're doing an extension or a new build property, you'll go through initial design process. You'll then have to, these are the key milestones. You'll have to get a planning application. Hopefully that will get approved. Then you'll have building warrant or building regulations approval, depending on where you are in the country. In Scotland, you're allowed to, you only have the opportunity to go to the local council. In England, Wales, we can go to the separate certifiers or the local authority. After that, you really need a set of production drawings that then take the building regs. Building regs and building warrant is a compliance exercise. It's not meant to be built from. You've then got a next stage that you then work to. And that's vitally important if you're going to be managing a self-build, because you probably don't have any experience of building a home. So you need the architect's information, the engineer's information on the drawings so that you can give them to the builder so that they're building accurately. And then the next stage is getting everything on site and the fun really begins. So the key sort of critical things, and don't lose track of this and be forceful with this, it's your home. It's not your architect's, it's yours. They are designing your home. Hopefully you'll have picked somebody that's got the similar style or knows what they're going to be able to do for you. One big criticism that I see when I do the Ask the Expert with the magazine is I see things that have been drawn or are not in line with clients' budgets. I usually counteract that by asking, did you actually give your architect or your designer your budget in the first place? If they have, then there's no excuse for it to be £100,000 or £50,000 over budget. It should be on budget. You have a massive part to play in that. So don't be naive as a client to think that if you move a wall by half a metre out and you move another one by half a metre out, that you have created additional floor space. Therefore, that has a cost associated to it. So just be mindful of all the accumulation of changes that you're doing during the design stage. And I would suggest that it's far better to make design changes on paper than in the site. So get them done right first of all. And if you're working with an RIBA chartered practice or chartered architect, we must ask you after every stage, can we progress to the next stage? So if you're not happy or things haven't been done right, you stay there, you continue and you work on until you get it right. And that goes for both parties. We always we always recommend to our clients, once you're ready and you've got your design and you're ready to put it into planning, 2 days before, go and chap on your neighbour's door, take a bottle of wine, some chocolates, and just show them what it is that you're going to do and try and get support. Because remember, planning, everybody will get an opportunity locally to object, but they can also comment and put forward their support. So if you can get your neighbours to support what you're going to do, that's got a massive impact on the chances of getting approval. So some of the key design stages that we have to go through in a normal project. So that's that. So just to clarify, think about exactly what it is you're going to do to start with. Then get the right people, and then give everybody the time to go through the design stages. Then you can get on to the fun bits. So first thing that we're going to look at, design idea we're going to look at, is fixed glazing, big areas of glazing. Now you'll be used to seeing things like this going into shopping centres, or when we used to go into exhibition centres to do these talks, you would see fixed curtain wall aluminium glazing. Now that's not for everybody, and it's not the right sort of design language that we usually put into homes, but we do now use them in big glazed gables. So we're opening up the side of a house and creating lots of glass, bringing the outside in. You've got a better relationship, direct relationship to the garden, and it opens up an area. It's a project we finished in Whipstead 3 or 4 years ago. Lots of glass, glazed gables, big expanses of sliding doors out onto balconies. It just opens up the property. Now, these are all individual elements of glass. This isn't a very expensive, fancy glazing system. Each piece, the angled triangular bits of glazing on the top, they are sitting on a piece of structure, and then they're sitting on sliding doors. So these are all individual elements pulled together, so the cost of this is reduced rather than having this big expensive curtain wall system. But it gives you this really stunning open feel. That's on the inside. So you're opening up with a bit of volume, glazed gables, being able to slide open out onto a balcony. You can also do it on a smaller scale. This is a rear extension, single-story extension. We've got bifolding doors with fixed glazed units above it. So this whole side of the rear extension opens up. It looks dramatic. It's stunning. You do need to take into account the fact that a window or a sliding door will not perform in energy performance terms as well as a wall, and you may have to deal with overheating. So these are things that you have to just take into account when you're looking at the design of the property. Oak frames are stunning. They are very tactile. They're moving. They're just a very nice place to be and live. It's not for everybody, and it is an expensive method of construction, but it is a quick way of construction. It's off-site fabricated. It goes up very quickly. It opens up the volume. And we'll talk a bit more about volumes later on in this talk, but as you can directly fix glazing onto it. You can have opening windows. It's a really nice feel to it. And on the outside, it looks stunning as well. It fits in with the traditional look of this building. So you've got ultra contemporary windows with a very, very traditional construction method and the other materials in this project. A more contemporary feel. This has got lots of big bits of glazing. So these are probably at the expanses of glass that can work at this size. So there'll be a certain point in size of windows and doors that you can do it as a timber aluminium window, and past that you may have to go to a full aluminium metal system for the frames just to get the spans. So this, looking at it in detail, and I want to try in these 4 or 5 elements that we'll talk about, the bigger elements, pull it back. So bring it back to a real life project and give you some examples of cost. Now, this is a project in near Gleneagles in Scotland that we finished 7 or 8 years ago now. These are big expanses of glass, but they're all individual panes, so individual units of windows. So we've got a lower level, we've got a mid-level, and then we've got a top level. We've got one big opening that this spans across, that's all structural. This is made out of SIPs, structurally insulated panels, and then these are triple glazed timber aluminium windows. And there's tiny little pieces of steel called flitch plates, 10mm steel that sits in between the windows. So they run horizontally across, and the windows are attached to each other. So very, very simple solution to get a very nice feel. And there's probably about £300 worth of steel in here. So very, very limited and very, very cost effective. That feature is about £5,000. So it's a lot of money, granted, but on a 350 square metre home, it's a very, very small part of the budget, but it's a massive feature. If you walk into the house, you've got 6 metres high of glazing wall, so it's just a stunning feature. You can do it on a gable, so this is a bit more complex because there's a bit more steel in here because there's a floor running through, and also there is a ridge beam that's supporting the roof. So on the top of this is our client's master bedroom, so he opens up, wakes up to this stunning view. There is recessed blinds fitted that can go up and down and go up and down over the angles, so all of that's dealt with for privacy. And there's nothing much more extra going on to support the windows. Again, there's flitch plates, there's a steel post that supports the ridge beam that's covered in plasterboard, so it looks like it's all part of the system. And on the outside, the flashing plates and all the bits that join the windows together are coloured the same as the windows. The key thing with doing a feature like this is working with an architect and an engineer, or designer and an engineer that knows what they're doing. And this has to be ordered from a window and door schedule. So these windows and doors are not ordered from the set of drawings. It's a specific schedule that says every unit, what the opening size of it is, what the structural size is, how it opens, the colour, all these different things are put on a schedule rather than a set of drawings. And that's vitally important for getting this accurate, because there's not much room for manoeuvre. And when windows and doors are the wrong size, there's very little that you can do. We've probably all watched Grand Designs episodes where this has happened. But if it's done right, you've got the architect, the engineer checking the drawings, checking the specification, and checking the window and door quote before you order it, then you shouldn't have any issues. But it's a stunning, big, stunning feature. So moving on to our second feature, staircases. If you live in a spec developer-led housing, as a lot of the UK does, your staircase will be hidden away in a cupboard or around a cupboard, and it will take up as little room as possible. We try and design, when we're designing bespoke homes, to just make a bit more of them. It's an interesting area. It's something that you can have a bit of joy. You can enter into a property, nice big double height space with a feature stair. And it actually creates, if it's done right, it'll create a new space in the home. It'll create a new, different feeling. So this area that we've got underneath this staircase, this bridge, has had a piano, it's had a writing desk, it's had a sofa, it's had a dining table. So the clients have added in an extra room effectively into the house that's versatile, it's welcoming, and it's got this staircase that's stunning. It's joiner made, and it's not cost an absolute fortune, which is great. If you're going to do more traditional, make sure that you do it correctly, so you have the right proportions, the right materials, and you follow it through. So do a little bit of research on how you're going to do it. We don't want horrible copies of traditional things, so it's really good. You can find a lot of information out online on what it is that you want to do. If you're going to go for something more contemporary, when you start paring things back, you usually start spending a lot more money. So this is a central spine staircase with metal, with timber treads and then glass balustrades. You're starting to get into serious money for adding a feature staircase like this. It will look stunning as a feature wow as you're coming in. This staircase separates different elements within an open plan kitchen, living, dining room. And so because you've got something physically there, it's adding a slight barrier, but it's still got the glass balustrade, so you can still see through. So it's almost defining the space and letting you create one big space, but make it feel like, in terms of use, that it's 3 or 4 different spaces. So that's really successful. Staircases can be works of art. I wouldn't suggest this if you've got 2 or 3 toddlers running about your house. I can see this as almost as part of a piece of art in a museum. It's a folded piece of metal. It's stunning. It's not for everybody. There's hardly any material in this, but a huge amount of work and cost. So, but you can have them as pieces of art on their own. This is one of my favourite staircases that I've seen. It's very, very simple. There is white painted timber treads and risers, white painted walls that form the balustrades, and then a couple of big feature windows and a roof light. So what that does is, as the sun changes and moves across the house and the building during the day and at night, the feeling and the shades and the different colours and the shadows all change. So this space evolves and changes throughout the day. So it's a really, really powerful, really simple and easy way to create a stunning feature. So say when we create new homes and we want to welcome people in, and it's nice to be able to come in and see right the way through, bring the outside in. So again, this is a very, very simple staircase. We've got 2 supporting walls on either side, and then we've got a spine structural wall in the middle. These are holding up the floor above and the roof above, and so there's nothing else really been added in. We've got timber treads that run from one side to the other. Big feature window, picture window at the back, and that's it. That's all it is. It's very, very limited in terms of materiality, but it works. It's really, really powerful. Staircases can all, as I said at the start, they can have different feelings and they can have different uses. So this staircase is really, really clever because it's wider than normal, and then you've got the bookshelf that's built in to the treads. So this now is full of colour and different books, and the family can now sit on the edge of the stairs, take a book and sit and read. It's a really versatile space, and it's a piece of elegant furniture. They can be useful. We're all used to having storage underneath and behind a staircase and making use of that small space. But what you can do is cleverly go and get a couple of IKEA or wherever units, shelves, drawer units, and put them in as the bottom 3 treads or the bottom 2 treads. So these slide out. You can have the kids' shoes, you can have what you want to do, and you can sit on the tread, put the shoes on. Really, really clever use of space, and nothing that expensive involved in there. So looking back at one of a project in detail, we had a client who wanted to have what looked like a floating stair cantilevered from a wall with glass and timber that matched the rest. The quotes that we were getting back from the high-end stair companies were in excess of £20,000. Now, our client didn't have that budget for that specific element, but he still wanted it. He was willing to take the risk and be involved in managing the process, and we then paired all of the elements. So it's got a metal spine and shoes that come out that the timber fits over. Now, the metal was done by a structural metal company locally. The timber that slides over the top that becomes the treads came from a timber company. The glass didn't come from a balustrade company, it came from a glass company. So we paired all the different elements down, and we got this stair down to about £5,000 or £6,000. So again, still a significant amount of money, but far cheaper. But we still got the same look, still got the same feel. Yes, the client had to be involved. The architect, engineer had to be involved in the process, but it works. It's very rigid. It's stunning to look at. and all the pieces are still there. They've just been done slightly differently. So if you're willing to take some risk and be involved, then you can still get the same look at a significantly cheaper budget. And it didn't impact quality. Quality's still there. It's still exceptional. It's still clean, and it still works. Staircases can also be fun. I suggest that all of our lives would be better with staircases like these, and I think that's the way I would go up and down stairs. And I'd even suggest, apologise that if you're in a bungalow, the last 5 minutes of your lives have just been looking at nice pictures. But I would even suggest putting one of these staircases in, even if you live in a bungalow. So lots of fun. So the next thing we're going to look at is corner glazing. Now, this is the easiest way. This image that is on the screen now is the easiest way for you to blow all of your budget on your project. And if you want help with that, please get in touch. So we're talking about a corner window. This is something that you'll see in very high-end projects, glass-to-glass glued connection, no structure, or no visible structure. There's a hell of a lot of structure hidden in the walls above that support the end of that wall and the roof above. I would suggest there's probably £2,000 to £3,000 worth of steel, and probably £4,000 or £5,000 worth of structural glass for one window. So it's a very, very expensive feature, but it is stunning. The second way, the more cost-effective way, and I'm going to look at 3 or 4 different ways to bring this down and work for your budget. The next most cost-effective way to still get the same feel, so you're still getting that glass-to-glass connection, is to introduce the structure. So actually, in this project, they pulled in or fixed in a circular hollow section. So we've got a steel post that's been painted white, simply white. That could be stainless, or it could be galvanized, whatever you want as your feature. It could be really small square, but they've accentuated it as a circular, so it almost draws your eye into the corner glazing. So another way of doing it, but still quite expensive, because you've still got that glued glass-to-glass connection. The most cost-effective way to do it is still to have the big windows, but to have a structural post that the 2 windows join in together, and then you have a cover flashing on the outside that joins the 2 together. So you're still getting the very, very high-end feeling, but you're just not quite getting the same glass-to-glass connection, but still gives you that same joy. And just to emphasise that this can be done on your budget. This is social housing. These are UPVC units. It's still giving that nice high-end corner glazing feeling, but yes, you're not getting the glass-to-glass very expensive connection, but it's far more cost-effective, and it's something that you can introduce in your project. It's a project we finished that looks over Alnwick Castle. We used standard windows, put them together. The structural engineer specified a post, and that's what you can see. That's supporting the roof and the walls above. One of the key things when you're looking at this is the structure has to support the structure of the building. But you also have to think on the outside, what is supporting above this window the external skin, the external material. So on one side we've got stonework, and on the other side we've got lightweight render. And above this we've got the roof, soffits and fascias, and as I say, the render on the other side. If this project had the stonework continuing up above the window, we'd have had to have a really expensive shelf angle or lintel that you can then build the brickwork off. And that would have changed the dynamic and changed the cost of this. But cleverly in this project, it's lightweight render above the window and soffits and fascias, which again is lightweight. So that makes a massive difference. And actually, because these are standard units that butt together and open up, we managed to have an openable window door. So these open out. It's not quite a door, but it's not quite a window. And you can then open out and walk on to the garage roof. So they've added in a new sort of sun space. So really, really good way of adding a feature like this on a budget. So the next big thing that we're going to look at is volumes. Now, we all live in a floor space. You'll be designing, first of all, in a floor plan. You really need to think about the projection above that. What are you going to live in? We're used to traditional homes having very, very low ceilings, and also in the mass-produced developer housings, we've got 2.4, sometimes less ceiling height. when you welcome somebody into your home, you want to do it in a larger space with more feeling of air and volume. And we live in the volume, we live in the space. And if you're lucky enough to live in this home, you've got a huge amount of volume and light and air above you. It will feel open, it will feel joyful, it won't feel in any way pushing you down. It's an inspiring space, and it will increase your enjoyment, and it will increase, if there's kids there, it will increase their learning. It's just better. It's better, and you can do this on your project. So it's important, it's really, really important to think, if you're going to do something like this, what's my construction method to start with? So you couldn't have done this space with a very simple traditional roof truss. This is using CLT, cross-laminated timber, which is still not made its way into the mainstream of one-off housing. But it's used a lot in modular flats and buildings where you need to get something up quick. But you could do this if you're using a timber frame. They will have a cassette style roof. And if you're using something like SIPs, you'll have a roof panel that's the same as the wall. So it means that you've not got the structure underneath the roof. So the structure and the insulation are part of the main roof profile. So you're gaining all of that space under the roof. As I said at the start of this section, it's lovely to welcome people into a home. And if you imagine welcoming somebody in on that image of the left into your house, and then just having the volume, and it just be amazing space to speak to people and welcome people in. It's nice in a living room, story and a half homes, or room in the roof. It's far easier to get through planning because it's a set height and it's lower, less impact on neighbours, but you can still open up the volume. As we mentioned when we looked at the windows, having the oak open, it lends itself to glazed gables, lends itself to the volumes, because you can then see all that lovely handcrafted work. This is back to this project in Glen Eagles. The client opens up into this 6 metre double height space. But you've got a bridge next to it, so you walk across under a bridge, but you welcome people into the large double height space. And when you actually then start to talk to somebody, you naturally gravitate to underneath the bridge to have a more private conversation. So it's amazing the way that the volume and height changes how you communicate. So there's little different things that happen when you play about with heights and volumes. Our client's got it's a 5-bed, say 350 square metres there or thereabouts home. He spends about 70% of his time on that sofa, looking over his double height atrium with the double height volume, and then through the glazed screens out to the fields, usually with a glass of wine or champagne. But it's a stunning space. You're ticking all the boxes with the volumes and all these different elements, the staircase. It just pulls it all together, and it's a really, really nice place to be. So the last big thing that we're going to look at is Crittle. So it's bang on trend if you want to tick all the boxes at the moment. It's not new by any means. We're looking now at usually aluminium frames, black painted with glass. And it pulls, one of the best things it does, it can pull together, because it's an industrial feel style, it pulls together the traditional, the contemporary, and that industrial. So it's really good for creating a contemporary feel extension on a traditional existing brick building. It helps if you've got a penthouse apartment in London to be able to look across and open things up. It's really good for separating spaces internally in a traditional home. So you've got really nice high ceilings, we've got covings, we've got architraves, and then we've got this black metal screen that's separating the spaces, but it's a design feature that you can then continue throughout the home. So in this stunning kitchen, it's creating a separate, larger utility space, but it's still giving the connection. And these aren't actual Crittle, these are frittle, so it's fake. So it's just glass with the plastic, black painted plastic or metal trims glued on top, so you can get around it and save a little bit of money. As I say, sort of black on Crittall and ironmongery is bang on trend. I think this has gone to the extremes. I wouldn't suggest you put everything in one room, but it has found its way into shower screens. So it's an element that you can pull together and use as a design idea throughout the home. Lastly, on the sort of bigger ideas, is there'll always be one person in the home that wants a bath and spend exorbitant amount of time in it. It's definitely not me in our household. But if you've got the part of the point of this is that you're creating your home for you. So tailor it to your needs and what you want to do. It helps if you've got a view of the Alps and no body conscious issues or no neighbours to look at you. But design it in. Think about where it's going to be, what you need around you, and what the view is going to be. On this project, we had this very busy road below this window, so we had to think carefully about the height of the window so that our client could get in and out. The other key thing to think about was the height and the depth of the windowsill, so that he could put his bottle of wine and he could have his glass and he could still sit out and enjoy the view over. So this worked really well, and it's a window tailored specifically to the height of the bath. So this space has been designed around the use. You'll always want to have a niche or somewhere to put all of the stuff that we now need to have in bathrooms and showers. So think about the depth of that. It's a key consideration. If you're going to have something that's 200 or 300 millimeters to fit candles or towels or whatever on, make sure at the design stage that you've got enough depth in that partition, because you don't want to have to design the house and then have to make these changes on site when you decide to put in a niche. It's also really good to think about the size of the niche and the size of the tiles that you're putting in. So this niche is perfectly the same size as the tile, so there's no cutting, and it all looks as if it's part of the same thing. It looks like it's been meant. If you're going to put it in a wet area, so really wet in next to a shower, just make sure it's sealed properly, because it's an area where water can collect, and you won't know that you've had a leak until it's too late. This shower now has nice glass shelves in it, lots of product, and it's been lit from above. So it's a really nice little feature, something simple that can be added in without too much cost, and just really lifts up a space. So looking at some little design ideas that can be integrated. This is shadow gaps. So you may have seen these in larger commercial buildings. So in museums or art galleries or offices, they create a shadow gap. So what we're talking about is that little gap that you see at the bottom of the plasterboard above the floor finish. This is the really high-end quality way to do it. So we've taken away the skirting board when we're exposing everything. So this relies on really quality finishing on site. You can continue that up the stairs. You can also continue into door reveals and window reveals. But the only problem with doing it this way is that in homes and things, the bottom of the skirtings tend to get hit by kids, or when you're doing the hoovering. So the way that we tend to now do it to be a little bit more robust and harder wearing is to still have the MDF skirting board, paint it white, and then pull the shadow gap further up the wall. So it still gives that really nice contemporary feel, but you've still got the robustness of the skirting board at the bottom. And again, you can continue that up the stairs. It's created by this as an f-stop beading. So you've got your plasterboard comes in at the back, the little channel section at the bottom creates where the shadow gap is, and then your plasterboard's below that. The front face then gets plastered over so it looks like it's in part of the wall. Really, really simple. It'll add a couple of pound on per square, or pound per square meter, or linear meter for that element. So it's not going to cost a lot to be able to do this feature, but it does add a lot. So some clever lighting. Most people are starting to put in lighting systems and use Alexa and all these different things for creating some lighting. But if this is in our house, in one of our own suites, we're serial renovators, and we're sort of year 4 in this house now, so I'm very much getting itchy feet. I hope my wife doesn't watch this. But anyway, we were renovating, I think it's 4 bathrooms, and we wanted to have large mirrored heated and light and a bit of storage on these mirrors. They're all about 2 meters by 1.5 meters, so big expensive things. I wasn't willing to spend the money on the off-the-shelf units, so we designed these ourselves and got them made by our joiners. So these are MDF boards with a piece of electric underfloor heating mat that's glued to the back of the mirrored glass, and the mirrored glass sits 20 millimeters off the board, and then there's a little LED lighting channel around it. So we've got big useful mirrors that have the lighting channel around it, so it gives a halo lighting effect. And as soon as the temperature and the steam starts to build up in the shower rooms, the underfloor heating mat kicks on and they don't steam up. They cost about £200 per unit. So really simple, easy way to create something as a really nice design lighting feature. Another thing that we did on the lighting terms in all of the bathrooms is putting LED lights at the bottom of all the vanity units. So for a couple £100 for the whole house, we bought strips of LEDs, and they're all linked to PIR movement sensors. So for £25 from Screwfix, you can connect a little strip of LED. As soon as you open the door, the light comes on. So in the middle of the night, you don't have to worry about finding the light switch, and there's enough light just to go in and do what you need to do. And these are also fitted in the utility room. So as soon as we come in with the boys, the shopping, we open the door, the lights come on in the utility room. So wow design can also be practical. So think about little things that can really help you live in the house and your enjoyment. So after the last show, at the last talk, at the end of it, myself and Laura got loads of questions, and loads of things were about what can I do? What can I do quickly and easily to add into my property? Key thing for me is getting light into a home. So natural daylight. So whether it's adding in roof lights, you'll get a Facro or a Velux roof light or a Roofmaker roof light for under £1,000 for a really big one. Get it fitted into the space, and it will just add so much. It lifts the space having natural daylight. The other opportunity, the other way of doing it is putting in a sun pipe. So for a couple £100, you can get a sun pipe fitted or purchased and then fitted, and get that into an area so you can get light into an area that you never had light before. And they really do work. So it's something to consider to add in light. And little interior tricks that you can do room by room depending on your budget. Strong, bold colours. If you follow Real Home's Instagram account or anything online at the moment, there is so much really nice stuff getting posted. And strong colours, bold features, replace the lights. And just add in, just keep going room by room. If you've not got the money to have a brand new wow kitchen, replace the drawer fronts, put some nice handles on. It'll just really start to add and lift the space. Sockets, switches, handles, these are easy ways that you can go and add, as I say, go round the house, room by room, and just add in different materials, change. There are little things that can be changed that won't take a long time to do. You can get an electrician and a joiner in to do them. Very, very simple, very cost-effective way to start adding a wow feature that you can work your way around your house. So just to summarise and pull things together, Pinterest. Get on Pinterest, do it together as a couple, please. Write little comments. Don't put everything in because it can just be a bit full on. Be the best self-builder you can be by coming and listening to these talks. Hopefully, touch wood, in January or March, get actually back to a show would be great. So learning, go on courses, get some books, subscribe to the magazines, just get as much as you can so that you can be the best self-builder that you can be, or the best project manager you can be. Try to integrate your features from the start. Use your brief. Think about what you want to do. Don't put everything I've put in this talk in one little room or one project. It might be a little bit too much. And always find a good way or a more cost-effective way to do it yourself. You'll get more enjoyment out of it and you'll get more value for your money. All of these bigger features only happen with the right design team, the right help, the right professionals. And just remember that wow can be practical. You can get enjoyment from something that makes your day-to-day life easier. So I mentioned at the start of the talk, I'm happy to give out the slides. So if you go to our website, acarchitects.biz/autumn show, you'll be able to sign up, get all the talks that I give virtually and in real life, in actual life, in person, and you'll be able to download our ebooks and loads of free resources. And you can also book a free consultation with one of our architects. So I hope you found that useful, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Allan. As you can see, I'm living in the middle of a renovation project, so that felt very inspiring, but also a very, very long way off happening.
You'll get there.
Hopefully. So if you've really enjoyed watching, if you're watching on demand, then you can contact Allan in the way that he just mentioned. If you're watching live, then make sure you head to our new Ask the Experts chat room, where Allan and all of our main stage experts will be available over the weekend for a slot, so you can put your questions to them. Thank you so much for watching. Allan, thank you once again for your time. Hope you have a lovely day. Take care.